It's kind of fun to say, I'm a Texan, I'm from Texas, you know? Like when I went to England last year, sometime like that, and everybody's like, where are you from? You got a weird accent. It's like, I'm from Texas. They're like, whoa, Texas, woo! You know, they all think we ride horses to everywhere and have guns and hats and stuff, which, to wit, I have a hat, but I don't have a horse. Never learned.
I still ride horses, but I've learned, I did have horses on our ranch, and the problem is you have to work with them all the time to be able to ride them in a way that's enjoyable. Because if you don't lunge them on a daily basis or work with them, they just become rascally and don't want to take you out for a ride.
Gosh, it is a lot of animals. There's a lot of like not wild, but stray dogs that have been just like street dogs, and they bite people. So there's a different attitude towards animals around here, sort of. I think there's something like about people not necessarily wanting to have their dogs neutered or spayed. Whenever I see dogs at the dog park that aren't neutered, you know, it's always a guy. He always has a big something or other, and you can, you know, always not fixed. And I think there's some machismo in there. So much of it centers around dudes somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, how all the dogs keep their ball and stuff. Yeah, it's weird though. Like, we feel bad for dogs, so we don't want to cut off their, you know, their testicles or whatever, but we'll just kill pigs or cows like willy-nilly, you know.
There's also kind of Texas attitude too, right? Just like, leave us alone. Don't put restrictions on us. Don't tell me what to do. And you know, why would you do that to a male dog? You know,
That's always been here, and people are used to that. Because I'm 71 years old. I just turned 71. I was, you know, somebody who grew up in Texas. I hadn't gone to an Eastern college. I went to the University of Texas. So I didn't have a broad experience in the world, but you know, growing up here, you're just used to that.
Yeah, my dad says really weird things. When I was 13, I believe he told me that, yes, if a woman is wearing a short skirt and walks down an alley, it's her fault if she gets raped. Granted, in those days, that's kind of what you told girls, but I also had a friend, a year later, I'm talking with her dad, and I said, well, if a lady walks down, because I'm still young, I'm spouting out the same nonsense my parents tell me, you know, blah, 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 dark alley, her fault. And he was so angry, he scared me. He said, how dare you say that? You know what? There is never a reason. It doesn't matter where she is, what she's wearing, consent is consent.
You know, growing up here, you're just used to that. That's something that you're just like, okay, whatever.
I think if my father knew what he did to me to make me feel like a secondary person as a woman, he would be devastated, because I know he didn't mean to. But I would say that every chance he got, he cut me down to half a person.
I like how friendly everybody is. And I think that's pretty standard for wherever you are in Texas, except maybe Dallas. They're not that nice there sometimes. Not to talk shit about Dallas. But for the most part, everybody in Texas has been really friendly. Even the gun-toting racists are friendly, you know.
I love a lot of things about Texas, but it's there is a sense of this sort of cowboy justice and white privilege that is really over the top, I think.
I think it's like that, yeah. I think it's like, you know, it's just like, it's machismo. It's that machismo you're talking about. It's like, I'm not scared of nothing. But I think, you know, the reason maybe people have so many guns is because they are scared of us. Like, my mom was terrified of somebody breaking into her house and, like, murdering her in her sleep or something like that, so she sleeps with a gun. But, you know, she'll still say, I ain't scared, you know. It's like courage by proxy. She's a pretty good shot.
Texas has always been, and I'm speaking, I understand, from white privilege, as they say. I grew up with a full-time black housekeeper, you know, what my mother had. She was a member of the family as far as we knew. But still, I'm saying I know my perspective is different than someone else's perspective. Traditionally, San Antonio has been a very tolerant city because we have so many diverse groups here. And like recently, I don't know if you're aware of the hate crimes that they painted swastikas on by the synagogues and things in San Antonio, and that's unheard of. No one ever. So I'm sure those are people who weren't raised here. Yeah, I think they're, I don't know who they are. They haven't caught them. But it's not the way people are brought up here.
Yeah, I think that immigration is certainly huge here. I think we all know people who are not U.S. citizens who are here and who are just trying to make a living, you know, and have a better life.
I think that it's very clear in Texas, the threats, and it definitely is an issue, is the drug cartel issue. Our borders are penetrated already by them just through corrupt officials or their own wiliness of being able to get across. And the children that are here that are, you know, people who are suffering that have come and trying to find asylum and they're kind of just stuck.
I don't know where it's going to be, and like even in the near future, like as far as like safety, I guess, for like anybody. Because we are so close to the border, because my family does come from there, because my family used to like have that as a part of their life. You don't want to go down there right now. Even if I'm Mexican, walking into Mexico, I already stand out. You can just tell when somebody's not from the area. Those are targets for, I don't know, kidnapping, raping, like doing stuff like that.
Well, there's that fear, right? The fear that all those people coming in here do us harm, right? But then there's the other fear, which is like, what kind of state do we live in when we are like judging an entire group of people and assuming they're criminals? Like, how far does that go? Like, that's what terrifies me. Like, I'm not afraid of, you know, rampant racist or rapist immigrants. I'm afraid of Donald Trump and what the country will be like if you build a wall, you know?
Let me just put it this way. Material progress has sort of been a continuous thing for a great many people on the planet from about, I don't know, the beginning of the 19th century to more or less the present. People have gotten richer, better fed, they live longer, etc. But we know that's come at a cost. You know, progress becomes a dystopia.
There was so much hope in the early 70s, you know. Women were like thinking the world was their oyster, you know, we could have all these advances. Looking ahead, I thought we'd have universal art education in all the schools. We'd really have made a lot of gains, and instead, it's like, you know, sinking. It's just kind of the unwinding of the social fabric of America.
Yeah, loss of security. It's actually maybe a little bit of a loss of a feeling of freedom, you know? Because I remember as a kid riding on my bike and going farther and farther from home and exploring and feeling very independent and free, you know? Looking back, you realize that there are other forces out there that are beyond your control that might hurt you, or, you know.
It seems more of a psychological thing than something connected to the facts of the world. Something that happens to me personally seems associated with my environment around me. The world and myself are connected. A feeling of modern anxiety that haunts everyone in the developed world.
That's why there's this apocalyptic feeling amongst most people, right? I mean, we see something like changing drastically from when we were kids. It's like a deep existential pain. I think that everyone I know experiences that. It's pain, you know, it's pain at seeing the planet slowly sort of dying, you know.
I mean, I love birds because I feel like birds are harbingers with spirit, and I just admire them so, you know, like how any little bird, it's so hard, you know, with all the predators and the, you know, the loss of habitat here. windows, the buildings, I mean, how we have one left, I don't even know. I don't know if you've ever had a panic attack. I was in bed, and all of a sudden it just came over me. It was just the most terrifying thing that's ever happened to me, ever. It was so terrifying. But the only thing that seemed to allay the panic attack was to lie on the floor and to have contact with the ground. So as I lay there on the floor, I had a huge revelation, at least was to me. There's no escape ever, because it's in you.
I mean, I think the popularity of zombie movies kind of speaks to that. The zombie environments are just basically, some sort of sickness that we somehow caused. And as soon as it happens, everything falls apart. Progress turning around and biting humanity on the ass.
I sometimes wake up in the middle of the night and I just have this feeling like I'm gonna be dead and everyone's gonna be dead and my whole family's gonna be dead and none of us will ever know that we were ever here. I'll be sleeping next to my husband and I'll wake up and he's passed out asleep and I'm like having an existential crisis next to him, like, oh, we're all gonna be dead. Everyone's gonna be dead. How are we ever gonna know that any of us were here? And
well, to me, that's the trick, is, it's a conundrum, how to continue without falling into despair, especially as you get older and, you see things that you're just like,
Oh, one of my colleagues said that she was afraid of hell. And I said, what? And she's like, well, what if they're right? Like the weird, like fundamentalist Christians or whatever. And she's like, what if I die and I end up in hell? I was like, okay, yeah, that seems awful.
Well, the phrase "ain't scared." That's a Texanism, I think. I ain't scared. You see it in, on the back of trucks sometimes. I ain't scared. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Maybe we're not scared of anything.